All right, everybody. Good evening. It's Steve with Real Progressives. It's 8:30 tonight, and most of our team, a large part of our team, is going to the People's Summit in Chicago tomorrow. Um, you want to touch on a few things before we jump into the meat of what I'm going to talk about tonight. First things first, Mike Sionato, Michelle Gale, Priscilla Ortiz, and Gabriel MacArthur will be out there mixing it up at the People's Summit in Chicago over the next several days. So you'll get a lot of live footage, hopefully some really great interviews and opportunities to hear about what's going on. But now we're going to get on to the main subject of tonight. And that is, as usual, we're going to talk a little bit about why this stuff that we're doing is repetitious and why it must be continually beaten over and over and over again for the foreseeable future. The fact is that without knowledge of how our federal financing works today, the GOP, which is largely playing on the fears of every man, woman, and child in America, is going to go ahead and steamroll cuts to the entire fabric of the social safety net. Every single thing you and I hold dear will be wiped away. And the fact is that without our knowledge of the things that we've been talking about day in and day out, you will absolutely be ineffective in being able to stop them from being able to cut away Social Security, from being able to cut away help for single moms, for all the automatic stabilizers that kick in that help the poor. All of those things will be wiped away. And you'll be sitting there without this knowledge, wringing your hands, complaining endlessly about how bad the GOP is and how awful the world is and how we all just going to die. And this is very important to know that it really is in your hands if you educate others. If we take the time to educate others, we will absolutely be able to change the world. You cannot sit there and bitch, moan, and complain about how horrible the environment is, about how the chemtrails go through the skies, and about how all the food is crap. And we can't do anything right about it because we're broke and we're strapped and we don't have resources. So we got to cut away Social Security, and we've got to cut away all the protections we had with the shitty ass Obamacare and go for something even worse. You can't defeat a balanced budget amendment. You can't defeat any of the lies that they tell us about the nation being broke and all the debt and deficit fear porn that gets thrown our way. You have no power whatsoever to defeat any one of those things if you believe that taxes fund spending, if you believe the nation is broke, if you're an idiot and you believe all this nonsense about the Federal Reserve, on and on and on. If you're one of those people, you have no shot. It's no wonder you lead a miserable life. It's no wonder that you don't see any potential salvation here. It's no wonder the glass is always half empty, and it's no wonder you are losing energy in this fight, and you don't have the staying power to see it through to the end because you don't understand how we're going to ever do it. And because you don't understand how you're going to do it, you just imagine yourself failing before you even try. Before you even try, you have already convinced yourself that you're going to fail. And then you start looking for a scapegoat. And guess who the scapegoat will be? And I'm not saying the good people, folks. Don't confuse what I'm saying here. But your scapegoat is going to be the awful Republicans who do exactly what it is that Republicans always fucking do. Okay? You're going to be mad at them. It's like being mad at a lion for biting your hand when you put it in front of its mouth. The GOP is the GOP is the GOP. Now, last night we had a guy who breaks that paradigm wide open in Mike Norman, who actually gets this as well, who provides me an incredible amount of hope, being the fact that he is running for president as a progressive Republican. Oh, that's scary, right? Well, at least somebody's trying to make some hay over there. At least somebody can get into the ear of these Republicans and maybe change their mind about how stupid they are for thinking that the nation's broke, for worrying about debt and deficits. But wait a minute. It's not just the GOP that does this garbage, is it? It's not just the GOP at all. It's the fucking Democrats too. It's every single one of these losercrats that thinks that the nation is broke, that we need money from rich people in order to pay for things, that the nation that creates its own dollars is somehow or another broke and requires rich people money in order to pay for single-payer health care, in order to pay for a federal jobs guarantee, and in order to transition to green energy. They have absolutely got it convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that they've got to find a way to tax in order to solve these problems. Folks, there is no hero in this story other than the MMTers. Get this through your head. The only people that have a shot at saving this country are the MMTers. And it's time for us modern monetary theory freaking activists, to teach each other and to activate every single day. Because as some of you who have experienced the backlash of the idiocy profoundly local into our movement, this and the Fed stuff and all the other crap that we deal with day in and day out, as you have seen empirically, we are surrounded by folks that do not want to learn. They would rather just peddle fear porn, just like the Republican Party. You want to blame the Republicans? Look no further than progressives for fear porn about the Federal Reserve, for fear porn about the debt, for fear porn about deficits, for fear of the rich, for fear. That's all you get is fear porn. It is disgusting. It is a fucking waste of life. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of oxygen. We must be victors and conquerors. We must go out and take the orthodoxy by the throat and literally bring it to its knees. And the only way we can do that is to educate each other so that we cease all pretense of telling the lies about our federal taxes paying for things and about the nation being broke. If we don't shatter that narrative, the other narrative will crush our collective souls. It will destroy your children's future. It will decimate our planet. It will destroy any future. Because guess what, folks? As this presentation is labeled, the future is now. The future is absolutely right this second. This second. Not tomorrow, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, not in some other universe. The future is right now. And if you don't embrace this moment, please, I beg you, do not come to me and tell me how bad the GOP is. If you sat there on your hands and you complained about taxes and you acted like we got to soak the rich, eat the rich, fuck the rich. The rich will be destroyed by not having us suckle up to them, by thinking somehow or another our very existence is dependent upon the money that they have. The pieces of paper that they have somehow or another are so precious and holy that if we don't get our government to print more of them, oh, wait a minute. So you're telling me that the federal government is the creator of US dollars? Huh. Well, I thought the whack-a-mole said that the Federal Reserve, a private banking cartel, was the one doing it. Oh, that's conspiracy fear porn just like the GOP? So you're telling me the GOP's infected the progressive movement? Oh, no, they're just all fucked in the head. I got it. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. My bad. Okay? My bad. I mistakenly thought that morons and idiots that peddle conspiracy theories had to be the GOP. So you're telling me that they exist in the progressive movement also. People that would stifle progress, block us from being able to make radical changes because of fear porn? So we can't just point over at the GOP, can we? We got to clean house in our own backyard to make sure we can make progress. How else are we going to make progress, folks? Do you think the GOP is suddenly going to become a different person, a different party? No? Okay, so what is it that we can do to defeat the GOP? Is it vote for GOP light? Is it pretend like we don't know our ass from our elbow? No, you've been informed, you've been instructed, you know that the nation is not broke. You know that the nation is not broke. You know they never, ever, ever raise taxes to bomb the shit out of the Middle East. You know this. You don't need to know more than that. You don't need to be a freaking economist. You don't need to be a Rhodes Scholar. You don't need to be a genius. You could be an everyday average person that sits there and goes to work every day with their lunch pail in hand and comes home, bounces your kids on your knees, and watches the hockey game. You can be that guy and still know enough to know that the U.S. doesn't borrow its own dollars from freaking China. You don't need to be a genius to get this. But for some reason, we have conspiracy theorists among us that don't know jack shit about economics, but wax poetic about the BRICS and China and frickin' Russia and all this other nonsense with Libya. And they talk all kinds of nonsense about things they know nothing of. But they read a blog from Global Research CA, or they read some bullshit from fricking some conspiracy thing, some Alex Jones nonsense. Do you know, it would be so much easier to not tell the truth about MMT and just sink into this bullshit about conspiracies. And I tell you what, we would go from half a dozen, 50, 100 people to 500 people suddenly because people would rather be lulled to sleep by a fairy tale that makes it so that they have an excuse for failing than actually be told, here's how we can solve this problem, and then take action. That's terrible, isn't it? That's fucking terrible. People would rather be lulled to sleep by a meandering story, a fairy tale, that allows them to have an excuse for failing, instead of fighting and forcing our Congress to serve our needs, taking to the streets and activating for real economic justice. These bozos would rather see Trump's tax returns. These bozos would rather sit there and talk about eating the rich, because they don't realize that if we have a federal job guarantee, that people will not have to go into these debt situations any longer when they lose their jobs or anything else. They will have an automatic stabilizer to keep them out of going deep into this private debt, a living wage with living benefits. But they would rather talk about soaking the rich when taxes are deleted. So how does a deleted tax in any way, shape, or form help a impoverished person that can't put food to their mouth? If you can't answer that question, you probably should stop saying stupid things. It's all the rage to put your fist in the air and say things that are cute and easy to absorb. But the reality is, when taxes are freaking keystroked out of existence and friggin' keystrokes spend money into existence, when that's the name of the game, and you sit there and talk about soaking the keystrokes of the rich instead of giving the people money, giving them work, giving them hope, instead of focusing on that, they want to soak the rich. They want to eat the rich because it's something that was said 100 years ago. And they read a book somewhere at some point in time, and they went to a seminar, and somebody said, eat the rich, and the crowd went crazy. Woo-hoo! Yeah! Woo-hoo! But the reality is, not one single person, not one, benefits from the taxes of the rich because they are deleted. If you want to help the poor, you must spend money into the bottom of the equation. You must spend money on the poor. You cannot cut people's income at the top to help the poor. That's not going to help. I mean, you could do it for some policy reason. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But don't you dare let people die because they don't have health care, because they can't eat, because they don't have food on the table. They can't afford to feed their kids. Don't you dare tell me that you got to delete some taxes so that you can soak the rich while instead of doing what you should do, which is feed the poor and house the poor and clothe the poor and get medical attention to the poor and educate the poor, instead of that, you decide that you're going to eat the rich. Think about how aberrant and abominable and stupid that is once you realize the taxes are deleted. It takes a special kind of stupid to not realize this. It takes a special kind of, oh shit, I don't care about the poor. I don't really actually care about the environment. I don't really care about that, apparently. That's what it says to me. When I hear that, that's what it tells me. At some point in time, you've got to really care about helping people instead of just seeking vengeance. Because vengeance will come when the fat cats don't make any money off the poor. Because the poor are no longer destitute. The poor are no longer prisoners to the wealthy. They are no longer prisoners to a state or a jurisdiction that does not serve their needs. No, my friends, they are mobile, and they are capable of doing something other than waiting on the rich to fix a faulty water supply. They will leave and go to another area because they have the means to do so. They have a job to go to. They have employment wherever they go, because in a real progressive world, we have a federal job guarantee with living wages and living benefits. That is really, really helping the poor. The income inequality comes as a direct result of us having to finance our lives because we don't have enough money. We don't have enough money. The wealthy do. At some point in time, you got to care. And this is why the repetition of teaching about MMT goes day in and day out. Because if we don't get enough people buying into this, it's not buying. See, this is the thing. I hate having to sell reality to people. I hate making people, it's like, hey, let me tell you about the truth here, by the way. And people act like you got to say, oh, I don't like your elevator pitch. I don't like the way he said that. Fuck you. I mean, we've got to get to this point where we recognize that if we don't do it, we will be swept away and crushed by the powers that be. You could talk about voting. You could talk about fix our elections. You can talk about all that stuff. But imagine our elected officials having fixed elections and people still stupidly believing that taxes fund spending. Do you think anything will change? I assure you it will not. Because we, the people, have to demand that our government serve our needs. If we do not do that, we will get nothing. Nothing, not a fucking thing. Nothing. Stop trying to find a scapegoat to abdicate your responsibility for freaking stepping up to the plate and friggin' being heard. If you want to put your fist in the air for real and you want to mean it, well, put your fist in the air and mean it and demand that your Congress serve our needs. I don't think this is really that hard, folks. I don't think it's really that hard at all. But here we are. We can't get Dianne Feinstein. We can't get Nancy Pelosi. We can't get any of these turd buckles to fricking actually buy into single-payer health care. And what's going to happen? States are going to try and take it unto themselves. Do you know there are more people out there today belly aching and whining because the ACA sucked ass? And so now they can point and say, see, the government should have never been involved in health care. They don't point to Medicare as a success. They point to the ACA, and they say government should have never been in health care. Because we do stupid things that sound good, but we don't take the time to understand what is really at play. And then we go along to get along because that's what we fucking do over and over and over again. Do you realize the fix for Medicare for all would be super simple? if I were a programmer, a computer programmer, I'd go into the government system and I would simply change the date of eligibility from 0 to infinity. And that would be the end of it. There you go, folks. There's your Medicare for all. In one fell swoop. Couple keystrokes, couple code changes, and voila. That, my friends, can't be done because we don't demand it. And if we did demand it, instead of sitting there sidling up to fear and sitting there saying we can't do anything, woe is us, we can't do it. Instead, we're not rising up and we're not fighting back. And why is that? Because deep down inside, people don't really understand the finance behind it. Our government is a currency issuing government. It creates its own dollar. And the value of that dollar is through our taxes. When they tax you, you go to jail if you don't pay them. So here we are, folks. It's do or die time. It's do or die. You have got to get motivated to start activating on this stuff. People are going to push back. I told you already, we are full of people in this movement that will peddle a conspiracy theory in 0.2 seconds flat. But you give them the truth and you give them a solution and they will turn their fucking nose up at it. They will turn their fucking nose up at it. You can show empirically that it works, that it's true. You could show it over and over and over again, and they would rather snatch defeat from the jaws of victory because they enjoy the fight. They don't enjoy the solution. They enjoy feeling powerless, and they don't want to actually have their needs met. And that is terrifying. It's up to us to shake the tree by any means necessary. By any means necessary. People are dying, and our planet will become uninhabitable if we do not take direct and swift action to change the environment in which we live. And most all of it stems from getting rid of fossil fuels, which stems largely from accessibility to green energy. And if you're going to sit there and fight tooth and nail about the means of production and labor value and this, that, and the other, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to miss the window of opportunity to save our fucking planet. Because we didn't activate before now. We didn't get serious about it before now. And now that Trump has pulled us out of the Paris Accord, whatever, now we have a chance to sit there and really fight. We always had the chance, but now we have the tools at our disposal. Knowledge of modern monetary theory, which is not a theory at all, which is a description down to the bones of how our federal financing works in this nation. Once you understand that and you stop allowing dummies to sit there and lead you down these conspiracy paths, once you stop allowing that to happen and you start stiffening your back and start saying, no, I'm going to stand and I'm going to fight for truth. Once you do that, then people will take note. But if you're sitting there half-stepping this thing, if you're not paying attention, if you're not really ready to activate, you can count on all of us failing, and failing bigly. Failing bigly. You're not powerless, my friends. There is a beautiful future ahead, and it starts today if you choose for it to. If you choose for it to, the power is in our hands to make this happen, with or without the elections fixed. Right now, we have to activate, and we have to mean it. And we have to fucking mean it. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. Have a great night, everybody.